Okay, I just re-hit the camera. I think we're on clip 4 here. I think I'm going to reset this timer here. I don't think nothing happened. We went through the intersection just fine. We do need to get in this right lane though in order to make a turn. It would be possible to do so right now, and I would recommend it. I could hit the turn signal to have it, to force it to do it, but I'm just going to let it do its thing. Here's this nice looking Model Y again. So we're talking about the radar being deleted from the cars. All this stuff is vision only. I mean, that wasn't for me. It's projecting out where all the cars are on the sides, and there's no radar on the sides to start with, so all that is all vision only, so-called. Okay, so right turn signal, it's going to be fine to do it after this gray car here, if we do it right now. That was beautiful. There was a sufficient gap. A lot of times there's not, which makes it more challenging. But in that case, yeah, it worked fine. So we're kind of into more traffic right now, obviously, as you can see. This is the wrong turn lane. I'm going to let it do its thing. And what are we doing? What are we doing? Okay, that was totally wrong. That was the wrong turn lane. I've seen that before, where it takes that wrong turn lane. So we are taking over manually. That's a failure mode I've seen before, where it gets in that turn lane, which is turn only. So that was a failure. Okay, we're rerouted, but the navigation doesn't have us going on this access road. Okay, there, now it is. Okay, autopilot's back on. That wasn't so great. We have a stop. This guy coming up from my left does not. He's turning. We're going straight. There's a car there. There's someone behind me. I'm gonna hit the accelerator. That was not graceful at all. We are kind of in a pseudo parking lot situation here. So one thing I do want to emphasize is that even with the failures, an engaged and active driver is fully capable of safely managing full self-driving beta. Okay, that was fine. Yeah, so an active and engaged driver can absolutely operate this safely. The problem is there's a lot of people who are not active and engaged drivers out there who probably have the ability to buy this software. So that's where the problem is right now, right? Okay, this is all full self-drive. That's a little bit close to the curb. It wasn't terrible though. Okay, this truck needs to stop. He does. There's a car up there. I should give him more room. We kind of do. And we find some plants. We do. That was kind of close. We weren't going to hit them, I don't think, but I took over. Didn't want to hit those plants. I didn't come to buy plants. And I'm just going to try to stay out of people's way. Okay, let me just position myself so I can get a new destination put in. I probably have something I need to buy here anyway, but not now. Okay, let's find some place new to go. So, let's go to, one of these days I need to go to downtown St. Louis. That's the general area I'm in, and see how it works there. I've been there quite a few times, but I need to do that again, maybe tomorrow. Where am I trying to go? Let's go to Best Buy. It's right here. Okay, that's the simplest way to get there. I'm going to rehack the video. We might make it. Let's try to make it on this video clip. Actually, yeah, let's try to make it on this video clip. I'm gonna get ourselves out of this parking lot manually. So I don't drive manually very much anymore, but when you do, you really realize just how much is involved in the driving task and what you're thinking about. All the different things you're considering and thinking about in order to make every single little move. So, okay, autopilot available. Maybe. Okay, it just had to reroute. That's why it was struggling there. Yeah, it's clear to the left, clear to the right. And unnecessary pause. There we go. I didn't have to nudge it. Motorcycle trying to go behind me. This motorcycle. Okay, I took over. I don't play around with people, obviously. Okay, let's try to get this turn going here. He was trying, I mean, he's narrow. He was trying to get in beside me there. I should have snapshotted that. So we're acting a little bit funny right now. I've said it before in other videos, how it seems pretty obvious to me that there's experimentation going on with whatever software is running. You know, they see what works, what doesn't work. If it doesn't work, they throw it out. If it works, they'll keep trying that until it fails, that type of thing. Sometimes it seems like we kind of get on that software where it's not working quite so well. And it seems like maybe we're there right now. So motorcycle in front of us, he is depicted in green. Reasonable distance behind him. Okay, he is off.
About the world. So in the beginning, you don't know, you know very little about what you want. The one thing that you do have is you have this radar, right? So one thing that you could start out doing is just try to build a network that just does what the radar does, right? So your initial trigger, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be triggered. The first thing you might do is go out and gather a bunch of data of like, this is what the radar did in this situation. So you just go.
I just caught someone beside me looking like they were videoing me. I've seen that before. I have experimental self-driving car magnets on the car, and I think that gets a little bit of attention, you know. I used to have student driver magnets, and that's what's currently in my thumbnails on these videos, but I had some custom ones made off Amazon for like 10 bucks that say experimental self-driving car. I have them on both front fenders and the back. My thought process there is that when the car is being a little bit funny and slow and delayed and awkward and weird, it will hopefully give the inquisitive drivers, that was interesting, the inquisitive drivers around you a little bit of, make them a little bit more patient. If they think, hey, I'm seeing this self-driving car, it's kind of cool or whatever. Because without that, it sometimes just looks like a terrible driver. So. Okay, we are doing an unnecessary lane change. It's safe to do, but there's no reason necessarily to be in this lane. But I'll let it go. Yeah, I've caught quite a few people though taking pictures and stuff, so kind of interesting.
You get a bunch of clips of varied situations, and you have a recording of what the radar said, and you have a recording of what the cameras saw. And initially you train a neural network that's just like, tell me what the radar would say in this situation, right? So that's your starting point. And the data for that is just a broad cross-section of situations that the car sees. Okay, so now you've got your first cut at the system, right? And I want to make it better because it's definitely not going to be good enough at this point. So how am I going to make it better? Well, what I want to do is I want examples of where it didn't work, right? And so one way to gather those examples is I have cars out there in fleet that are driving around doing something. I'll take this network and I'll put it on those cars in shadow mode, which means it's running, but it's not doing anything in a car. It's just running and making predictions. And now what I can do, now that I've got it in the car, is I can have another I can have a trigger that looks at the output of that and looks for situations where it seems like it's not doing very well and record those for me. So for example, like these first couple of triggers on this list, they're kind of that kind of thing, a radar vision mismatch. So when the radar isn't telling you something that something about your vision suggests that it should be doing, like that's potentially a radar failure, and you can catch it. Or bounding box jitter. So the radar has a localization. It doesn't just return a signature. It also returns like a kind of XY coordinate for where it's got the signature for where the return signal is coming from.
A little aggressive break in there.
If that's hopping around, that might be a place where radar isn't doing very well, right? And that might be a place. So if your pseudo radar is generating your bounding box output also, and you're seeing it hop around quickly, because things in the real world don't tend to do that, that could be a trigger, right? So bounding box detection or detection flicker, like the radar's telling me there's a car, there's not a car, there's a car, there's not a car. It's seeing things and losing them, like that's an example of where it's not working. So in the beginning, you start with pretty simple things, and these triggers, you push them out to the fleet, you're looking for pretty basic failures in the beginning, and they're intuitive failures, where a human says, well, it just shouldn't do that in that situation. And we're gonna capture that data so down the road, there might be other kinds of triggers that you have. Like they have one down here, which is, objects on the.
Okay, that was kind of odd there. I'm not sure if you could tell, but I think it's because that car's nose was kind of close to the road, but we kind of paused a little bit, went past slowly, kind of were indecisive. A little bit unusual. Probably should have flagged that one. I wish I knew how long that buffer was, because if it's been too late, I'm not sure if it does really any good.
Proof, right? So they see, they're gathering these failures, and they notice that a lot of times it's when somebody has a tent or a canoe on the roof of the car that it's not working very well. So they're like, we need more examples of where there's some object on the car.
Okay, this guy's partially out there a little ways. We're gonna miss him. Very similar behavior to what I just saw with that other one. That guy's nose is a little bit out there. We went past, and then once we were past him, it kind of slowed down a little bit. Once again, instead of talking, I probably should highlight that. That seems like the same behavior both those times. Car's nose close to the road edge, go past, slow down for no reason after it. So that's interesting.
Car, which is including maybe part of the visual stream,
question on this. So, I mean, are these triggers for detecting when the radar doesn't perform well, or when the vision doesn't perform well?
So this is pseudo radar we're talking about, right? So now a trigger can be anything. The Tesla, any condition that the vehicle can detect, right, could be a trigger for gathering data. So for instance, they have going in and out of tunnels. At some point they noticed that the pseudo radar that they were building, the vision analog to radar that they were trying to get working, that it had
Okay, we just made it. I turned autopilot off. This guy's pulling out. This is human pilot right now. It's kind of a pretty colored car. Wow, see, this is just janky craziness, right? Like, I know what I want to do. I'm just trying to make room for him. Makes sense, right? She was kind of acting like she wanted me to do something more than I was doing. Some people there. I mean, for human, this is obviously manageable. You think about it, a herd of sheep can walk around and avoid trees and bushes and each other, and I mean, we're just not there with computers. Okay, I'm gonna stop the video, restart it, and move on to maybe some smart summon.